This one goes out to all my homies working in the field of evolutionary science. Check it.
Hi, my name's John. This is my first video on this account. I usually use the account called MacMan13, but I made this account a little while ago to deal with stuff like, the evolution creation thing and, atheism versus theism stuff. So I finally got a chance to use it, and I figured I'd post this up there. This video is a response to the video called Challenge for Evolution. It's video number 1 by Jesusdisciple777. The video is about 5 minutes 35 seconds long, and I wrote about 2 pages of notes. So I'm pretty much just gonna read those, and I'll put a couple of links in the video description, and you should go watch his video first. And apparently it's the first in a series, I'm gonna assume, because it says number 1 in it. So I'll probably be making more videos responding to his other videos also. Alright, so let's see. Hold on, my computer's frozen for a sec. Come on. Okay. First thing you mention is a concept called irreducible complexity. You say that it is a fact. Saying something is a fact does not make it so, and irreducible complexity is actually far from it. It is not even a claim, it is a concept, one, ironically, outlined by Darwin in his book, The Origin of Species, which you mentioned, and I was glad that you actually mentioned that. I cannot attempt to prove them false. You say prove them false. I cannot attempt to prove them false unless you first attempt to prove them true, which I expect you will probably do in a later video, and I'll address it then. Okay. Irreducible complexity is an argument from ignorance, which is fundamentally useless. All you can ever do, or all you could ever possibly do with it, is maybe prove parts of evolution wrong, the parts that it was talking about, but it wouldn't actually prove intelligent design right. I have not yet seen anything that is irreducibly complex. However, as I said, and Darwin said, could potentially disprove a particular aspect of evolution. The entire theory would not necessarily be falsified. Some examples often used to show irreducible complexity incorrectly are the eye and the bacterial flagellum. I will not address these right now, but if you bring them up in a later video, I will talk about them and why they are not irreducibly complex. You then ask to prove intelligent design / creationism wrong. Well, I can't. Creationism is defined in the loosest way as the belief that God created the world and God created life on Earth. That is an unfalsifiable idea because no matter how satisfying the naturalistic explanation is, it is still possible to believe that God had a guiding hand behind it, and I know many people that do believe that. If we are referring to creationism in the more narrow way of the idea that the Earth is approximately 6,000 years old and that there was a global flood 4,400 years ago, i.e. biblical literalism a la Kent Hovind and Venom Fang X, I can show evidence against that idea, and I will if you state that those are your positions. I'm not sure at this point what specifically you believe, and therefore I won't address it until you do outline that. You said, don't use scientific consensus to try and support your position. That's true. Scientific consensus is not proof. Both arguments from authority and arguments from numbers are logical fallacies. However, the simple fact that the scientific consensus is so strong should at least make you think about it and think, maybe if this evolution thing were so clearly false that somebody on YouTube with a webcam could disprove it, it wouldn't be accepted as true by pretty much every modern biologist. And pretty much is kind of putting even too much of a qualification on that. I have absolutely no idea where you got those statistics that state that only about half of scientists accept evolution, but I can tell you they're not true. The question may have been misleading, something like, do you believe in God, which a lot of scientists do, less than the general population, but a lot of scientists. Or they could have said, do you believe... I don't know. I don't know. There's lots of ways to mislead this question or to misquote it. That video that you referred to, I'm pretty sure you misunderstood it. It was arguing that the minority of the entire population believed in evolution, which is true and is kind of a reflection on our education system. However, within the scientific community specifically, evolution is virtually universally accepted. Once again, that is not proof, it's just something to point out. You next said that creationism is scientific. Creationism is not scientific due simply to the fact that science limits itself to the natural world and cannot use supernatural entities or phenomenon to explain observations. The reason science limits itself to the natural world is that supernatural explanations are not really explanations. If you explain life by saying God did it, for example, you have not answered any how questions, as I say. You have answered a who question and, depending on your theology, maybe a why question, which is not a scientific question anyway. It's like that cartoon I saw Michael Shermer use in a debate against Ken Hovind once. Scientist lists step 2 of his theory as, and then a miracle happened. Another scientist walks up behind him and tells him that he needs to work more on step 2. You said that evolutionists throw out evidence that doesn't fit with their position. I have not seen any examples of legitimate evidence that doesn't fit with evolutionary theory. Once again, if you have any, please bring it up, and I expect you will in a later video, and I'll address it. Not to point fingers, but ironically enough, your accusation is a very good description of exactly what many creationists do, at least the ones in the public field. They seek out evidence that seems to support, or at least doesn't falsify their position, and then only talk about that evidence while ignoring or making false claims about evidence that goes against their belief. And then you talked about microevolution versus macroevolution, and you said that fundamentally they are different. Microevolution and macroevolution are fundamentally the same, much in the same way that, to use CDK007's words, micro and macro growth are. I'll put a link to that video in the description. I suggest you watch it. It's a very good video. At present time, there exists no known biological or genetic barriers that would prevent microevolution from becoming macroevolution when given enough time. And it is important to point out that macroevolution should be defined as evolution at or above the level of species, or speciation, which has been observed. The examples of microevolution that many creationists ask for, like I want to see a monkey give birth to a human, is really not macroevolution, but magic. It doesn't happen. No one suggests it does. I would call that super duper macroevolution, which no one claims happens. So it's a straw man. But speciation has been observed, and I'll put a link in the, which way is it? The video description, to examples of that. Okay, so that's my whole list, and I'll put this up there, and I'll probably be making subsequent videos to talk about his whole series, and good luck.
Hey! Bring that shit in.